My friends, we turn to Hosea, a prophet of immense power and profound discomfort. Here is a tale of a marriage gone tragically wrong, a story of love, betrayal, and idolatry that mirrors with unsettling accuracy the covenant between God and Israel. A story that forces us to confront the very nature of divine love and human frailty. A story that echoes through the ages, resonating with our own experiences of brokenness and the yearning for redemption. The historical backdrop is the 8th century BCE. Israel was spiraling, descending into a moral and spiritual abyss. Prosperity, once a blessing, had become a curse, leading to complacency, and complacency to idolatry. They chased after false gods, seduced by the allure of power, wealth, and sensual pleasure, forsaking the one who had delivered them from slavery in Egypt. They exchanged the living God for lifeless idols, the source of true life for empty promises. Before we delve into the heart of Hosea's extraordinary and deeply unsettling story, let us pause and consider the world he inhabited. The 8th century BCE was a time of both prosperity and peril for Israel. Outwardly, the nation seemed strong, enjoying a period of relative peace and economic growth. But beneath the surface, a spiritual rot had taken hold. A cancer of idolatry, a turning away from the living God, was spreading like wildfire, threatening to consume the very soul of the nation. Hosea, a prophet called to speak truth to power, to call his people back to the covenant, found himself standing at the very edge of this spiritual abyss. He was a man caught between the allure of worldly success and the stark reality of spiritual decay, a man bearing the burden of God's grief. Then comes the shocking, almost scandalous command, a command that would forever alter the course of Hosea's life, a command that would turn his marriage into a living parable, a painful enactment of God's own relationship with his unfaithful people. God tells Hosea, "Go, take for yourself a wife of whoredom, and have children of whoredom, for the land commits great whoredom by forsaking the Lord." Hosea 1:02. It is a command that seems to defy all logic, all decency, a command that forces us to confront the raw, unfiltered nature of divine love. Here, whoredom is not merely a literal act of infidelity, a simple transgression of marital vows. It is a powerful metaphor, a stark representation of Israel's deep spiritual adultery, their betrayal of the covenant, their turning away from the source of life itself. It is a breaking of the heart of God. The Hebrew Ziyat Nunim speaks not just of physical infidelity, but of a deep, pervasive spiritual betrayal, a rupture in the very fabric of the relationship between God and his people. It is a word that carries the weight of broken promises, of shattered trust, of a love betrayed. It speaks of a wandering heart, a straying from the path of righteousness, a choosing of darkness over light. Hosea's marriage is to become a living parable, a painful, visceral enactment of God's own relationship with his unfaithful people. It is a divine drama played out in the intimate space of human love and betrayal, a story that forces us to confront the depths of God's love and the consequences of our own unfaithfulness. The command is not arbitrary. It is a reflection of the profound spiritual crisis that gripped Israel. The nation had turned away from God, embracing the empty promises of false gods. They had exchanged the living water for broken cisterns, the source of true life for fleeting pleasures. Hosea's marriage, his personal pain, his family's suffering, would become a living testament to the consequences of this spiritual betrayal. It would be a stark reminder that our choices have consequences, that our actions have repercussions, that our unfaithfulness wounds not only ourselves, but also the very heart of God. Hosea, in his obedience, in his willingness to embrace this painful calling, becomes a living symbol of God's own unwavering love. He becomes a voice for the voiceless, a witness to the truth, a prophet called to lead his people back to the path of righteousness. He is a man of God, a man of pain, a man of hope. Hosea, obedient to God's unsettling command, takes Gomer as his wife. This is not a marriage of convenience, a mere fulfillment of a prophetic duty. Initially, their love is real, their connection genuine. They build a life together, a life of shared joys and sorrows, a life that reflects the ordinary rhythms of human existence. They experience the tender moments of intimacy, the laughter of children, the quiet satisfaction of building a home. For a time, it seems, their love is a haven, a refuge from the spiritual turmoil that surrounds them. But the allure of the false gods, the seductive whispers of worldly pleasures begin to take hold of Gomer's heart. She is drawn to the vibrant processions, to pagan shrines, to the seductive rituals and offerings that promise prosperity and sensual gratification. She is captivated by the allure of wealth and status, by the empty promises of power and control. A subtle shift occurs, a growing restlessness, a yearning for something more, something beyond the simple joys of family life. Her gaze begins to wander, her attention drawn elsewhere, her heart slowly turning away from Hosea, from the covenant they have made. The prophet's personal heartbreak mirrors God's heartbreak over Israel's spiritual infidelity. Gomer's growing distance, her subtle betrayals, her eventual departure, become a living metaphor for Israel's own unfaithfulness. They're turning away from the God who loved them, who provided for them, who called them his own. Hosea experiences the pain of betrayal, the agony of abandonment, the emptiness of a broken covenant. He feels the very wound that God feels, the wound inflicted by a people who have chosen idols over the living God. Gomer's departure is not merely a personal betrayal, it is a symbolic act, a representation of Israel's own abandonment of God. She seeks fulfillment in the empty promises of the false gods, in the fleeting pleasures of the world, but finds only emptiness and disillusionment. The prophet's pain, his deep visceral sorrow, becomes a powerful witness to the consequences of unfaithfulness, a stark reminder that true joy, true fulfillment can only be found in the love of God. Hosea's experience is not one of passive suffering. He is not merely a victim of circumstance, but a prophet called to embody God's love, to demonstrate the scandalous grace that pursues the unfaithful, that redeems the lost, that restores the broken. His personal pain becomes a powerful testament to the enduring power of divine love, a love that will not let go, a love that will not give up, a love that will not abandon us in our darkest moment. Now we begin to delve deeper, to unpack the layers of meaning embedded within this profoundly unsettling narrative. We must understand that Hosea's personal tragedy is not merely a biographical detail, a footnote in the history of Israel. It is a powerful metaphor, a living parable, a window into the very heart of God's relationship with his people. The marriage metaphor, the image of God as the husband of Israel, was deeply rooted in Israelite tradition, a covenantal understanding of their relationship with Yahweh. This was not a mere analogy, a simple comparison. It was a profound truth, a sacred bond, a divine marriage. God saw himself as the husband of Israel, bound by covenant, by sacred vows of love and faithfulness. This was not a distant, impersonal deity, but a God who desired intimate communion, a God who yearned for a loving relationship with his people. Idolatry, therefore, was not merely a religious error, a theological misstep, a simple misunderstanding of divine truth. It was a profound violation of the sacred marriage vows, a betrayal of the deepest intimacy, a breaking of the heart of God. It was spiritual adultery, a turning away from the source of true love, a choosing of empty idols over the living God. To further illuminate this profound metaphor, let us consider the ancient Greek understanding of love. The Greeks, with their keen philosophical insights, discerned different facets of this complex emotion. Agape, the unconditional, self-giving love. The divine love that seeks the good of the other is the love that God embodies, the love he offers to his people. Eros, the passionate, sensual love, the fire of human desire, is also present in the covenant relationship, a reflection of the deep intimacy that God desires with his people. But here in Hosea's story, we need pistis, faithfulness, loyalty, the steadfast commitment of love, the unwavering adherence to the covenant vows. This is the love that Israel lacked, the virtue they betrayed. They failed to maintain pistis toward Yahweh. They broke their vows. They turned away from their husband. They chose the fleeting pleasures of idolatry over the enduring love of God. The Israelites, seduced by the allure of the false gods, exchanged pistis for fleeting pleasures, loyalty for empty promises, true love for hollow idols. They sought fulfillment in the material world, in the sensual gratification of pagan rituals, but found only emptiness and disillusionment. They broke the heart of God. They wounded the divine love. They turned away from the source of true life. Hosea's pain, his deep, visceral sorrow, becomes a powerful witness to the consequences of this spiritual betrayal, a stark reminder that true joy, true fulfillment can only be found in the love of God, in the faithfulness of pistis. Hosea, in his obedience, in his willingness to embrace this painful calling, becomes a living symbol of God's own unwavering love. He becomes a voice for the voiceless, a witness to the truth, a prophet called to lead his people back to the path of righteousness. And now we arrive at a crucial juncture in our exploration, a point where we must confront the uncomfortable questions, the challenging perspectives that arise when we view this ancient story through a modern lens. For too long, Gomer has been relegated to the margins, a mere symbol, a passive object in a divine drama. But what of her? What of her experience, her agency, her voice? Feminist theology, with its commitment to justice and its insistence on hearing the voices of the marginalized, compels us to ask these questions. Was this a just arrangement? Did Gomer have agency, or was she simply a pawn in God's plan? A victim of patriarchal power. Karen King, in her groundbreaking work Enslavement and the Formation of Earliest Christianity, challenges us to examine the power structures within biblical narratives, to confront the realities of slavery and other forms of oppression. She reminds us that the Bible was written within specific historical and cultural contexts that were often marked by inequality and injustice. A feminist reading, therefore, demands that we see Gomer's humanity, her struggles, her agency, and the societal pressures that may have led to her choices. It forces us to confront the patriarchal context in which this story was written, to acknowledge the ways in which power and privilege shape our understanding of Scripture. We must recognize that Gomer was not simply a free agent making choices in a vacuum. She was a woman living within a patriarchal society, a society that limited her opportunities, that defined her worth in relation to men, that often left her vulnerable to exploitation. We must consider the economic pressures she may have faced, the societal expectations that may have weighed upon her, the limited options that may have been available to her. To ignore these factors would be to ignore the complexity of her situation, to reduce her to a mere symbol, to deny her humanity. Feminist theology brings voice to those silenced. Gomer's voice matters. Her story is not simply a symbol, it's a human experience, a testament to the complexities of love, betrayal, and redemption. It's a call to see beyond the surface, to hear the whispers of the marginalized, to acknowledge the pain of the oppressed. It's about remembering that the Bible is a collection of human stories, and that those stories are always filtered through a human lens. Sarah Blake's work reminds us that understanding and inclusion are essential for meaningful dialogue, for building bridges of empathy and compassion. We must approach this story, and all stories, with humility, with a willingness to listen, to learn, to grow. We must be willing to challenge our assumptions, to question our biases, to see the world from different perspectives. By doing so, we not only deepen our understanding of Scripture, but we also create space for healing, for reconciliation, for a more just and compassionate world. This is not to say that we must abandon the traditional interpretation of Hosea's story. Rather, it is to say that we must enrich it, expand it, deepen it, by incorporating the insights of feminist theology. by acknowledging Gomer's humanity, by recognizing the societal pressures she faced, by listening to her voice, we gain a more complete, a more nuanced, a more compassionate understanding of this complex and challenging narrative. We move beyond simplistic interpretations and embrace the richness and complexity of the human experience. And so we are left with a more profound understanding of the story of Hosea and Gomer. It is not simply a story of divine judgment and redemption, but also a story of human struggle, of societal pressures, of the complexities of love and betrayal. By embracing a feminist critique, we do not diminish the power of the divine message. Rather, we amplify it. We make it more relevant, more meaningful, more transformative for our own time. And now we arrive at the heart of the matter, the very essence of Hosea's message, the scandalous grace that sets this story apart. What's truly radical about Hosea is not just the initial shocking command, the directive to marry a woman of whoredom. It's the unwavering, relentless, almost irrational love that compels him to pursue her, to redeem her, to bring her back from the depths of her unfaithfulness. It's the tangible manifestation of God's love, the living parable, the heart of the good news. Hosea is told to buy Gomer back, to redeem her from her situation. Hosea 3:1-3. This mirrors God's relentless pursuit of his unfaithful people. It is a scandalous act of grace, a demonstration of love that defies human logic, that transcends our limited understanding of justice and fairness. Imagine the scene. Hosea, the prophet, the man of God, the husband betrayed, venturing into the very heart of the city's darkness, seeking his lost wife. He searches not with anger, not with condemnation, but with a heart overflowing with love, with a yearning for reconciliation. He traverses the city's underbelly, the places where Gomer has sought refuge, where she has been exploited, where she has been lost to herself. He endures the scorn of others, the whispers of disbelief, the harsh realities of a world that has turned its back on love. And when he finds her, she is not the woman he once knew. She is not the woman he married. She is broken, she is wounded, she is lost. She is trapped in a cycle of exploitation, perhaps sold into slavery, perhaps reduced to a mere commodity. She is a shadow of her former self, a testament to the devastating consequences of unfaithfulness. And yet, Hosea does not turn away. He does not recoil in disgust. He does not abandon her to her fate. He sees her not as she is, but as she was, and as she can be again. He pays the price of her redemption, a price that speaks of the immeasurable value he places on her life, on their relationship, on the covenant they have made. He buys her back, not as a possession, but as a beloved wife, as a partner in covenant. He brings her back into his home, into his heart, into the embrace of his unwavering love. It is a scandalous act, a radical demonstration of grace, a living parable of God's own relentless pursuit of his unfaithful people. It mirrors the very nature of God's love, a love that seeks not to condemn, but to redeem, not to punish, but to restore. This is not a romanticized picture of reconciliation. It is raw, it is real, it is a testament to the enduring power of love, to the transformative power of grace. Hosea's actions are a living embodiment of God's own unwavering love, a love that will not let go, a love that will not give up, a love that will not abandon us in our brokenness. It is a love that seeks not to punish, but to heal, not to condemn, but to restore, not to abandon, but to bring us back into the embrace of divine love. Hosea's story is a mirror, reflecting the very heart of God, revealing the depths of his love, the extent of his grace. It is a story that reminds us that we are never beyond redemption, that we are never beyond the reach of God's love, that we are never too broken to be restored. It is a story that offers hope, a promise of new beginnings, a testament to the transformative power of divine love. And now we turn our gaze beyond the personal, beyond the intimate story of Hosea and Gomer, to the grand sweep of God's redemptive plan for Israel. The prophet's personal experience, his own journey of love and forgiveness, becomes a living parable, a window into the heart of God's promise of renewal. God promises to restore Israel, to bring them back from the brink of destruction, to transform their wilderness of despair into a garden of abundance. I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her. Hosea 2:14. The wilderness, once a place of judgment, a place of desolation, a place of exile, becomes a space for intimate renewal, a place of encounter with the living God. It is a reversal of fortune, a transformation of judgment into grace, a turning of sorrow into joy. The wilderness, that symbol of separation from God, becomes the very place where God draws his people back into his loving embrace. It is a journey of repentance, a return to the covenant, a rediscovery of the joy of communion with Yahweh. The word for tenderly in Hebrew is dabar al-leb, meaning to speak to the heart. It is a phrase that speaks of intimacy, of deep connection, of a love that reaches into the very depths of our being. God does not condemn or punish. He woos, he allures, he whispers words of love and forgiveness. He speaks to the heart, to the very core of our being, offering a new beginning, a chance to start again, a promise of restoration and renewal. It is a language of grace, a language of mercy, a language that transcends the boundaries of human understanding. This is not a mere restoration of material prosperity. It is a restoration of the covenant, a renewal of the relationship between God and his people. It is a return to the intimacy of their first love, a rediscovery of the joy of walking with God, of living in his presence. It is a transformation of the heart, a turning away from idols, a return to the worship of the living God. It is a promise of hope, a promise of healing, a promise of new life. The desolate landscape, once a symbol of judgment and despair, is transformed into a fertile, thriving land, a testament to God's power to restore, to renew, to create beauty from ashes. The barren wilderness becomes a garden of abundance, a reflection of God's overflowing love and generosity. The people, once burdened by guilt and shame, now rejoice in the freedom of forgiveness, in the joy of reconciliation, in the wonder of God's grace. It is a new beginning, a fresh start, a promise that God's love will always triumph over sin and despair. This promise of renewal is not limited to the people of Israel. It extends to all who seek God's love, to all who yearn for reconciliation, to all who long for a new beginning. It is a promise that echoes through the ages, a testament to the enduring power of God's grace, a reminder that we are never beyond redemption, that we are never too broken to be restored, that we are never too far gone to be welcomed home. It is a promise that speaks to the heart, a promise of hope, a promise of love, a promise of God's unwavering faithfulness. And now we turn our attention to the implications of Hosea's message for our own time, for our own lives, for the world we inhabit. We must ask ourselves, how does this ancient story, this tale of love and betrayal, of judgment and redemption, speak to us today? How does it challenge our assumptions, our beliefs, our actions? How does it call us to live differently, to love more deeply, to act more justly? Hosea challenges our notions of justice. He challenges our understanding of fairness, our expectations of reward and punishment. He confronts us with the scandalous reality of God's grace, a grace that defies human logic, that transcends our limited understanding of what is deserved. God's love, as revealed in Hosea's story, is not conditional. It does not depend on our worthiness, our perfection, our adherence to rules and regulations. It is a love that pursues us even in our unfaithfulness, even in our deepest moments of betrayal, even in our most profound acts of rebellion. It is a scandalous grace, a love that refuses to give up on us, a love that will not abandon us to our own destructive choices. It is a love that seeks not to condemn but to redeem, not to punish but to restore, not to abandon but to bring us back into the embrace of divine love. It is a love that breaks down barriers, that transcends boundaries, that reaches across the chasms of sin and separation. It is a love that is both unsettling and profoundly comforting. A love that challenges us to rethink everything we thought we knew about God, about ourselves, about the nature of love itself. This scandalous grace, this unconditional love, is not merely a theological concept. It is a call to action. It is a call to extend that same grace to others, to forgive those who have wronged us, to reach out to those who are lost and broken, to work for justice and reconciliation in our communities and in our world. It is a call to break down the barriers that separate us, to bridge the divides that divide us, to build a world where all are welcomed, where all are valued, where all are loved. The experience of grace is not always easy. It can be unsettling, even disorienting. It challenges our sense of control, our need for justice, our desire for retribution. It forces us to confront our own brokenness, our own unworthiness, our own need for forgiveness. It is a humbling experience, a stripping away of our illusions of self-sufficiency, a recognition of our utter dependence on God's mercy. But it is also a liberating experience, a transforming experience, a life-giving experience. It frees us from the shackles of guilt and shame, from the burden of our past mistakes, from the fear of condemnation. It empowers us to live differently, to love more deeply, to embrace our own brokenness and the brokenness of others with compassion and understanding. It opens our hearts to the possibility of new beginnings, to the hope of redemption, to the promise of God's unwavering love. Hosea, in his obedience, in his willingness to embrace this scandalous grace, becomes a living testament to the transformative power of God's love. He shows us that even in our darkest moments, even in our deepest acts of unfaithfulness, we are never beyond the reach of God's mercy. He reminds us that God's love is not limited by our imperfections, by our failures, by our sins. It is a love that transcends our understanding, a love that defies human logic, a love that will not let go. Hosea's message, with its emphasis on God's relentless love and the call to repentance, is not merely a personal message, a call to individual transformation. It is also a social message, a call to examine the structures of our societies, to confront the systems of oppression and exploitation that perpetuate injustice and suffering. We cannot separate our personal faith from our social responsibility. The scandalous grace we receive from God compels us to act justly, to advocate for the marginalized, to work for the restoration of all creation. Hosea's message calls us to examine our own societies. Where do we perpetuate systems of oppression and exploitation? Where do we turn a blind eye to the suffering of others? Where do we prioritize profit over people, power over justice, comfort over compassion? We must confront the uncomfortable truth that we are all implicated in these systems, that we all bear some responsibility for the injustices that plague our world. How do we mirror God's relentless love by pursuing justice and restoration for the marginalized? How do we translate the scandalous grace we have received into concrete actions that make a difference in the lives of others? We are called to be advocates for the voiceless, defenders of the oppressed, champions of the marginalized. We are called to use our voices, our resources, our talents to dismantle the systems of injustice that perpetuate suffering and inequality. This is not merely about abstract principles or political ideologies. It is about concrete actions, about tangible expressions of love and compassion. It is about seeing the face of God in the faces of the poor, the oppressed, the marginalized. It is about recognizing our shared humanity, our interconnectedness, our responsibility to care for one another. It is about understanding that true justice is not merely about punishing the guilty, but about restoring the broken, healing the wounded, and creating a world where all can flourish. This is not a task for any one group or any one religion. It is a shared responsibility, a collective calling. People of all faiths and people of no faiths are called to work together, to build bridges of understanding, to forge alliances for justice. We are all part of the human family, and we all have a role to play in creating a world where all are treated with dignity and respect. And this call to justice extends beyond the human community. It encompasses the entire creation, the earth itself, which groans under the weight of human exploitation and environmental degradation. We are called to be stewards of the earth, to protect its resources, to preserve its beauty, to ensure its sustainability for future generations. We are called to live in harmony with creation, to recognize our interconnectedness with all living things, to respect the delicate balance of the natural world. Hosea's message, then, is a call to radical transformation, a call to personal and social conversion. It is a call to embrace the scandalous grace of God, to extend that same grace to others, to work for justice and restoration in our communities and in our world. It is a call to live out our faith, not merely in words, but in deeds, in actions that reflect the love and compassion of God. It is a call to build a world where all are welcomed, where all are valued, where all are loved. And in the midst of the darkness, in the face of overwhelming challenges, we are called to hold on to hope, to believe in the possibility of change, to trust in the power of God's love to transform our world. We are called to be beacons of light, agents of hope, instruments of God's peace. We are called to be living witnesses to the scandalous grace of God, to the transformative power of love, to the enduring promise of justice and restoration. And so we come to the close of our journey, our exploration of the profound and unsettling story of Hosea. We have traversed the depths of human betrayal, witnessed the scandalous grace of divine love, and confronted the urgent call to social justice. We have grappled with the complexities of this ancient narrative, seeking to understand its relevance for our own time, for our own lives, for the world we inhabit. And now we return to the heart of the matter, to the enduring message that echoes through the ages, a love that will not let go. Hosea's story is not a fairy tale. It is not a sanitized account of easy forgiveness or effortless reconciliation. It is a raw, honest portrayal of human brokenness, of the devastating consequences of unfaithfulness, of the painful journey towards healing and restoration. But it is also a testament to a love that will not let go, a love that pursues us even in our darkest moments, a love that offers us a chance to start again, a promise of new life. It is a love that transcends our understanding, that defies human logic, that breaks down the barriers of sin and separation. It challenges us to see beyond betrayal, to extend grace to those who have wronged us, to forgive those who have wounded us. It challenges us to confront our own unfaithfulness, our own brokenness, our own need for redemption. It challenges us to embrace the scandalous grace of God, to allow that grace to transform our hearts, to reshape our lives, to empower us to live differently, to love more deeply, to act more justly. And it challenges us to work towards a world where all are valued and restored, where all are treated with dignity and respect, where all are welcomed home. Consider these questions in your life and in the world around you. Where have you experienced unrelenting love? How can you extend grace to those who have wronged you? What steps can you take to combat injustice in your community? These are not merely rhetorical questions. They are invitations, calls to action, challenges to live out the implications of Hosea's message in our own lives, in our own communities, in our own world. They are opportunities to embrace the scandalous grace of God, to extend that grace to others, to work for justice and reconciliation. And so we leave you with this image, this symbol of hope, this promise of new beginnings. May the story of Hosea, this testament to a love that will not let go, inspire you to embrace grace, to extend forgiveness, to work for justice, to build a world where all are welcomed home. May the light of God's love shine upon you, guiding you on your journey, empowering you to live as a beacon of hope, a witness to the transformative power of divine love. Thank you for accompanying us on this exploration of Hosea, a testament to the boundless, unconditional love that pursues us even in our unfaithfulness. If this journey into the depths of divine grace and the complexities of human relationships has touched you, we invite you to join the Hope in God community. Subscribe for more theological reflections, share your own experiences of encountering grace, and let us continue together, finding hope in every step of our shared pilgrimage towards a deeper understanding of God's unwavering love.